Hello everyone, welcome to Mustang month. This month I'm going to be flying the P-51 on the Storm of War server. This is a ground attack mission I'm going to conduct here, and we're going after the Douvres radar station, or Douvres radar station. So I'm just going to start this aeroplane now quickly. It's all ready to go. And we've got a bunch of rockets on board. So we're going to be doing a rocket attack. I'll get the flaps up to the takeoff position. I'll close this canopy. Guns are armed. Rockets are set to go. I've got a light fuel load because it's not a long trip. The radar station is actually well behind Allied lines. It's been a thorn in the Allied side since shortly after the invasion, and this is the 17th of June, this mission. So this is right about the time where the Allies finally decided to attack and overwhelm the little night fighter or radar station. So we're going to head out to the east once airborne, fly out towards Benny-sur-Mer, which is an airfield, an ALG, and from there we'll make the run into the target. Plan is to try and loose off as many rockets as I can in the first pass, possibly come around to make a second pass, and then we'll RTB. My takeoff airfield here is Saint-Pierre-du-Mont, which is also an advanced landing ground. Let's taxi over then, across the grass here to this threshold. I'm going alone, flying solo on this one. As you can see, it is dusk. The sun is not far above the horizon in the west, which is the way I'm pointing currently. So I'm going to have to make a right turn once airborne here. We're airborne. Such an easy aeroplane to take off in, the Mustang. Gear and flaps coming up. Gear indicator light is on, flaps are up, turning right across some of the shipping that's here just offshore. There's the airfield behind me on the right. So I'm going to bring the engine back to max continuous settings. And start the turn to the east. Gonna follow the coastline along here. The plan this month is to learn the P-51. I learned the Anton in July. I spent most of July flying the Anton. Thoroughly enjoyed that aeroplane. And this month I'm going to focus on the P-51. I have flown the P-51 in fits and starts in the past. A couple of hours here and a couple of hours there. But I've never really properly sat down to learn this airplane, to get a feel for it, to take it into combat, and to test it and myself against some of the German airplanes. So that's what we're doing for August, which will mean pretty much 2 months without flying the Spitfire, which is my normal ride. So when we get back to flying the Spitfire, that's going to be interesting, I suspect. Going to just call up the radar just in case there are hostiles. Good, there are no bogies currently detected by radar. That doesn't mean there aren't any about. They could always be sitting below the radar altitude or out of radar range. Gonna make this run as quick as possible though. The idea is to get into the target and then get back out again with some pace, which isn't too difficult in this aircraft because it's pretty quick, although I'm not really pushing it at the moment. RPM's a bit high. I'll bring that back to the specified 27 for max continuous, just under 2700. Engine tone just pops down a little. Now the target is beyond this airfield. There's an airfield there where I'm just dragging the yellow cursor around. Just beyond it is the town of Douvres, and the target should be between the town and the airfield. I will start climbing shortly to make the run-in, because I want to have a bit of airspeed as I pop down. Quickly check then. My rockets are armed. They're set to single fire. I have 10 rockets on board. Quick check of my fuel tanks just to make sure the aircraft's even. I might burn from the right fuel tank now because I want to have a nice even stable aeroplane on the attack run. Yeah, I'm going to switch to the right tank and try and drain that. The right tank currently has 43 gallons, the left tank's on 30, so if I can burn 7 gallons off the right tank just as we get to the target, that'll be perfect. That'll mean the aeroplane is as balanced as possible, assuming I trim, of course. Just passing over Long-sur-Mer, that's Long-sur-Mer airfield down there. A couple of Spitfires there, casting long shadows on the parking spots. It's at RAF field. Now, there's Benny-sur-Mer, and the target's over there. I think we'll go for a relatively steep climb. Bring the airspeed down to about 180, 190, which is pretty close to best climb speed. I'm just going to hold this till we get to about 8,000 feet. Quite a lot of right rudder required here to maintain a coordinated aircraft as the speed comes off. Okay, that's enough airspeed. I'm going to adjust the attitude a little here. Adjust the attitude. Tiny trim adjustment. Adjust the attitude. Time to check the radar once more. Still no bogies detected. 900 feet off my target altitude. Then I'm going to level off. Beautiful view. Across Normandy and the Bocage is Bayeux over there. 7,500, just starting to level off now. That's Caen, the city of Caen over there, and Caen Copycat Airfield. I don't want to get too close to that because the flak is pretty choppy. Right, the target is this area here, and these brown fields. That's the airfield, Benny-sur-Mer, and there it is there. It's actually very close. It's 2 or 3 or a kilometre away from the airfield. Allies had a lot of frustration with that target, with that installation there. It was quite well defended, and they initially just pushed past it and ignored it. Well, they didn't ignore it, but they didn't really push hard to destroy it or disable it, and then they sort of came back for it on the 17th of June. And I think Mark Felton has made a YouTube video about this radar site and about its role post-invasion. I'll link that video in the video description to this one. As we drop in on the target, a bit of left rudder here, just bringing the throttle back. I'm going to have the sun behind me, so it could be bouncing off the prop, which is going to make life a little difficult. That's the target area there. I'll probably lose around half of my rockets on the way in. We'll swing around and then try and get rid of the other 5 on the way back out. That's a good lineup on target. Throttle back. I don't want to get too fast here. That's 0 throttle, so just a tiny bit of boost pressure. And the rockets fall at about the bottom of the gun sight. So we're going to try and loose 5 rockets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can see some ground fire coming up at me there. I'm just going left, bit of power on, bit of rudder, power on, power on, power on, up to 45 inches. Right rudder now. We're going to go up and over and attack again. Check the radar to make sure there's nothing nearby. There is something south at low level, but a long way off. So we should be able to get the job done and get out of here. Bit more RPM. Looking for the target area again now. Okay, I can just see some smoke coming up from it. So we're going to make a second run. Here we go. This one is going to be the other side of the road, I think, because there's some more objects on this side of the road. Just there, where some of that ground fire was coming up from. See if I can hit that vehicle. 1, 2, and a few rockets in there into the compound for good measure. Accidentally fire the guns, pulling the wrong trigger for a second there. A bit of right rudder as we break away to the right into the sun. I've got some allied ships out here. I'll head for them. Quick roll of the wings, check the target. Oh, there's a little bit of fire and smoke back there, so we hit something. Now it's time to exit. For the run-in back to Saint-Pierre-du-Mont. Bring the engine back to max continuous settings. Put the ram air forward now. Should have done that just after takeoff, but I forgot. I'm going to drop right down and we'll follow the beaches. Gold Sword and Juno Beach. Whipping along at 350 miles per hour indicated airspeed. Dive tends to do that. That'll drop back and I could punch the throttle further if I wanted to. There's the town of Auros on the left wing. I'll pop out here and whip past this ship. Wouldn't normally do this if this was really post-invasion, because the navies were notorious and notoriously famous for firing at anything that flew near them, and they would be opening up on me at this point. But fortunately the game knows that I'm a friendly, so that ship's not firing at me. But during the invasion period itself, I think they fired first and then tried to identify later. There's an evening where a very small Luftwaffe raid on the Allied ships occurred, and the Allies sent up some night fighters, and they actually lost 4 night fighters to friendly fire from the navies. And there was some recriminations soon after that. can't remember the exact date, but it's referenced in Anthony Beefor's book, which is a pretty good read, and a lot of these missions on the server are based in part on the material from that book, as well as a web resource which I use for the day-to-day kind of diary. I'm going to be setting up very shortly to land at Saint-Pierre-du-Mont. That should be Pont du Hoc coming up. I'm going to check the radar again for enemy aircraft, and everything's at max range still, so that's good. I'm going to pop up, we'll get sight of the airfield. There it is, need to come left. Full RPM, so full fine pitch. I'm just checking the airspace over there visually in case there is anything behind me. I can't see anything. Quite bad rear visibility in the Mustang due to this giant seat. But we're going to go and do a left-hand overhead brake, which will give us a chance to clear the airspace as well. And then we'll turn into land. This was a pretty standard procedure for returning aircraft at this period, to come in low over the field, staying fast, and then do this braking turn and chop the throttle. So this means you don't slow down on your final approach, which keeping your airspeed up is really important in a combat area. And we'll get about 2/3 to the full way down the runway, chop the throttle, go into a left-hand climbing turn through 180 degrees, checking the airspace behind visually. That gives me a chance to see if there's anything coming. 200 miles per hour coming up, indicated. It's clear. Okay, then a bit of throttle on as we start slowing down. Rolling wings level, and this should put me just on a downwind off the runway there at about the right height, 1,000 feet or so. What am I at? 930, that's okay. Bit more power on, 150 miles per hour indicated. Gonna put a bit more power on just to gain some altitude because we're a tad low. There's the threshold. And we're now going to turn in on base. So left, bit of left rudder and then a tiny bit of right rudder. We get some reverse yaw happening in this aeroplane. Open the canopy. Okay, airspeed's too high. Chop the throttle. Flaps. Gear. That's it. Airspeed's now coming down below 150. It's going to pick up as I go into this descent. Probably could have extended that downwind a fraction. Okay, now I'm going to give it a bit of elevator just to slow it down even more. Lining up. This is a very fast approach. Going to give it a bit more flap, full flap. 140. So we're going to extend this down the runway a bit here, and we are probably going to bounce a little, but I wouldn't stress too much about that. This aircraft is pretty handy when it comes to landing. Yeah, there's the bounce, just a tad. Another little bounce, another little bounce. So a bit of a bumpy landing, but under control. A controlled bouncing landing. Start raising the flaps now as we roll to a halt. The sun is now nice and low on the horizon, looking very gently beautiful over there. It's going to get quite orange and red as it gets lower. Bit of wheel squeal there as they lock up slightly. I'm just over braking a fraction. I'm just reducing that, the braking now, by tapping the right brake a bit less. There we are. We have arrived back at Saint-Pierre-du-Mont, where we got airborne from. I'll just point this aircraft into wind. and leave the taxiway clear. And shut it down. Brakes. So, shut down, I'm going to just go full brake, add a bit of throttle, and then cut the mixture. Thanks for watching. There we go. A little quick ground attack mission in the P-51. Welcome to Mustang month. There'll be much more of these videos over the next few weeks.